Hi guys, I'm Sam from the Unity of Life and welcome back to my video, to my channel. Just a quick real recap. We started off looking at the very brief history of Formula 1 and then we moved on to the Drive to Survive Netflix documentary series, which we are now on season 2. And we're on episode 9. Please bear in mind that everything that we are talking about did happen in 2019. I am very well aware that things have changed since then. So we are now looking at episode 9, which was focused on Williams. If you remember from the first series, there was an episode in the first series that was also focused on Williams. So let's get into it. So Claire Williams, she was the deputy team principal, but she acted more as the team principal as her dad took a step back due to his age. You know, he was getting on a little bit, so his priorities changed. It became less about the team and more about what time he has left on this planet. The reason it's a good job that we are talking about Claire, because remember I said we are moving on from this and we're going to talk about females that are in motorsports, not necessarily women who are race car drivers themselves, but have huge influences and huge powers in motorsports, and Claire Williams is certainly one of them, and we are going to do an episode on her, so keep an eye out for that. If you hit that notification bell, you'll certainly be notified when that video is uploaded. So for 2019, Williams decided that they were going to bring in 2 completely new drivers, and I think maybe partly the reason for this was because they were a huge team back in the day when they first came into the sport in the 60s. However, times had changed and they were no longer that top team that was actually a threat and people were competing against, and they were getting podiums. They were now right at the very back on the racetrack, and they were finishing like anywhere from like 20th to like 10th. So the 2 new drivers that they brought in was George Russell and Robert, who for some reason I don't have his last name wrote down because that's smart of me. So Robert had actually not been an F1 driver for 8 years, but he had done it before in the past, where George had never drove for F1 before. It was his rookie season. So the reason why Robert had not been in F1 for a total of 8 years was purely because he got into a really bad car crash, and he was a really good driver. Apparently he was one of the best until he had that really bad car crash, and because of his injuries he was no longer to be able to drive an F1 car for 8 years, it seems. So they had a little bit of hiccup, because anybody who is a huge fan of this sport, you will be aware before the racing season actually kicks off. Obviously, in the off season, the cars are being designed and the engineers are putting the cars together, and you then need a testing session, right? So this session happens about 3 weeks before the racing season kicks off, and the drivers have so long to get into the cars and test the car out, see how good it is, and the team then have collecting data from the car, because every car has like a little computer in it, and they look at the data and they see what they can improve on, and then they only have a certain amount of time to be able to improve on the cars, depending on what the data is showing, before they can get onto the season and potentially be the best car that they can possibly produce with the money that they do have. So they ran into a few problems, Williams, in the testing for 2019, and they actually struggled to put the car back together in time for the testing period to actually happen. So as a consequence of not being able to get the car actually put together in time for this testing, they missed the first 2 days of testing, and I believe they only have like 3 days of testing. So to lose 2 out of those 3 days is a huge deal, because you want you really want the most data that you can get, because the more data that you can get, the more chance that you are likely to find any little problems and able to fix those problems. And as much as I don't know anything that much about cars or Formula 1, I do come from a science background, and I do know that the bigger the data set is, the more results that you're going to be able to get, and the findings that you're going to be able to get are probably going to be a lot more accurate than if you've only got less data. So there was a guy named Paddy, and Paddy, he was in charge of seeing that the car was ready on time in Williams, and he ended up taking a leave of absence because he really did blame himself. Well, he was really in the firing line for the fact that the car was just not ready, and they missed those 2 very crucial days of testing, because it was his job to make sure that everything was running smoothly and the car was ready on time. So Williams, after only 9 races in the 2019 season, they were last in the championship, which is not a place that any team really wants to be. Every team sort of wants to prove that they have the best car, and the way that they can prove that is by winning the Constructors' Championship. So to come last in that Constructors' Championship ain't very good. You know, especially if you were a team that all the other teams were competing against a long time ago, and now you're right at the very back. So Claire herself, she felt an enormous amount of pressure to see if she was actually the right person to be running this team, because it was her family business. So, you know, a lot of the other teams, when people are in her position, yeah, they're going to feel they are going to feel pressure, because it's up to them to try and get the best results on that team. But when that team is your family's business and it's your family legacy, that pressure is intensified, and it's like 20 times worse probably, because you don't want to let your family down, and you obviously want to try and keep the business in the family, and the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to make a success of it, so you do have something to pass on to the next generation. I'd like to also point out that she was doing all this and had a very young child to look at home as well. So, you know, that's like really impressive that she, you know, yeah, maybe she didn't do the best job, but she did her best, and she did it for quite a long time. And like I said, throwing a very young child on top of that just makes things that little bit more difficult, but she still got on and she still did it, which is absolutely remarkable. And I think a lot of people, from what I've read in the press, are very harsh and a bit too harsh on her. So she also felt that despite the issues the team was having, she did feel as if maybe the team was on its way out. They weren't sure whether or not that the team was going to survive and continue, which we now know that that's not the case. A lot has happened with Williams. I believe the end of 2020 Claire has stepped down and it's been sold on to somebody else. They still have I'm not sure if they have the same drivers. I know that George still drives for them, and I know they're still not getting the best results, but time will tell whether or not changing hands is going to help them come back to the top, and be restored to their former glory. So that's all we have today on episode 9. So thank you for joining me on that. If you've liked this video and the content that I've shared in the past, click on my face, it's down here, and you can subscribe. Do not forget to click that notification bell, because then you will be notified of all the videos that I post, which is currently every Wednesday and every Saturday. If you click down here, there will be a playlist, and that'll be take you to all the other videos that I have spoken about F1A. So just remember to be respectful to one another. You know, we are trying to fight not fight diversity, but we are trying to fight for diversity, and we are trying to fight against animal abuse as well. I can't do all this on my own. I really need the support from you guys. So don't forget to comment and share this video. I think that's the most important, is subscribing and sharing. And I will see you in the next video, where we talk about the very last episode in season 2. Bye.